Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Early Social Development Lab YouTube channel. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm the Recruitment and Outreach Coordinator with the lab. And I'm here with Alexis, who is a research assistant and psychology doctoral student with USC. Last week, we talked to you a little bit more about our lab and the research that we do here to support young infants. And today, I thought we would get a little bit more specific about some of our infant skills. Alexis, what do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea. I thought we could start out by giving some social development milestones since we are the early social development lab. What do you think?
I think that's great. I think that's something our parents would really benefit from.
Fabulous. So, here in our lab, we watch our infants quite closely over the first year of life. And we want to ensure that they're meeting their milestones on time and developing properly. So, there are some things we pay attention to, and that includes when babies start to look at their parents and smile, as well as when they start to make vowel sounds like ooh and ah, and when they start to string their consonants together like ma, 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 ma.
So, when should parents be looking out for these kinds of things? And how does all of this really happen?
So these things develop one after another because babies gain one skill, say smiling at their parent, and that leads to them supporting other skill development, like starting to make vowel sounds.
So, that is so cool. So, all of these skills are so intertwined and interconnected, kind of like a cascade in a way.
That's right.
Huh. Can you share with parents just what they can look out for as their children start to learn these skills?
Absolutely. I'm going to go over some larger milestones right now. So, infants start smiling at familiar people around 2 months of age. And they also, at this age, begin to make sounds and start to notice sounds around their environment and turn their head to kind of orient to those sounds.
Wow, infants, they learn so fast. And at 2 months of age, that is really early. What is it that parents can do or teach their kids at this age to encourage them to smile or to coo or to make sounds at people that they know?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So at this age, it's not quite so much about teaching infants as it is making sure that babies get in the right situations to kind of practice these skills. So smiling at your baby and being excited when you're around them will give them the chance to practice smiling back at you. Similar to like when you talk at your baby and repeat sounds that they're making, it gives them a chance and encourages them to continue practicing making sounds with their mouth, which encourages the development of other more complicated sounds.
That is so cool. So then, after the 2 month mark, after they start seeing their infant smile and make noises at people that they're familiar with, what is it that comes next? What else can parents expect after 2 months?
Yeah, so 4 months is kind of our next milestone marker time point. And at that age, babies start to smile spontaneously. So that's kind of the age that you see, like if you notice a baby in the grocery store and you're like, oh my gosh, like that person's baby is so cute. And then they smile at you and your heart melts. They're probably right around that 4 month period because they've smiled at you first instead of you having to smile at them to get a smile back. And they also start to copy other facial expressions like frowns or surprise faces. And they learn to have better control over their face, which really encourages like different facial expressions. They'll also make more complex sounds at this age and coo at you when you talk to them. So you can kind of have like a mini conversation where you talk and then they might make some sounds back at you and then you talk again and then they make more sounds. So playing games like peekaboo at this age will expose your baby to new facial expressions, and copying your baby's sounds encourages them to continue making sounds and practicing those skills.
That's great. Well, I like what you said about copying baby sounds. What if we practice that for a second? Just so you can show our parents what that looks like and how they can do that with their infant.
Absolutely. So let's say your baby, you're around them and you're talking to them and they say, ooh, ah. So then you would just copy that sound. So why don't you copy that sound?
Ooh, ah.
That's right. And then I might do something like, ah.
Ah.
Exactly. And then we go back and forth like that. And it really simulates like a conversation that you'd have with an adult just in baby speak.
Yeah. And I love how that's just so natural. Like we naturally do that with babies and with kids, or really young kids at least. and how that's so important for their development.
Absolutely. And you can really continue to do this across your baby's first year of life. So as they make more complex sounds like consonant sounds, and we'll talk about this a little bit, I think next week, they're going to go ma, 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 and then you can repeat that back to them. So it's really something you can continue throughout the whole first year.
That is great. So after the 4-month mark, what is it that parents can then expect from their infants?
Okay, so our last milestone marker for today is 6 months. And by this age, infants begin to recognize familiar people. So this is the age, like, say mom or dad walk in the room and your infant like really smells and is like, oh, that's my mom. And they start to kind of discriminate between parents and familiar people and strangers. So they might not be quite as warm to strangers as they used to be. They also are going to be responding to their name. So you can start calling their name and seeing them turn their head as they recognize it. And then also stringing sounds together, like I said, both vowels and consonants. So to continue developing these skills, playtime with toys is very important. Parents can continue to copy their child's sounds, like I've talked about before. And then they can also start to name simple words that go along with the toys kids are playing with, or even objects around the house. So maybe your child sees their bottle and they say, bah, 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 because they're getting excited and they know that that's bottle. Then you can repeat back, bah, 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 and then you say, bottle, bottle, when you give it to them, and you really kind of enunciate those sounds, and then you're introducing them to a whole string of words that represents not just the one syllable. So that's kind of how the cascade develops across time.
That's awesome. So let's say we have, a family, or let's say there's a family out there that's maybe listening to this, and they are not seeing some of these developmental milestones progress in the way that you're sharing. What is it that they can do, or, what should they keep in mind if they're not seeing some of these things progress?
Yeah, absolutely. So in these first 6 months, it's important to remember that the skills don't show up exactly when your child turns 6 months old. So it's not like it's their half birthday and then all of a sudden they're making all of these consonant sounds. It's really a developmental process. So you shouldn't be worried until your child has really missed a milestone by a couple of months. And then at that point, like say you get to 6 months and you haven't really heard your child make any vowel sounds, or they're not like smiling at you, then you might become a little concerned. So it might be time to speak to your pediatrician, and they can do short evaluations that you'll just fill out a form and they can kind of screen you for various things. And then they'll refer your infant for further testing if there's more reason to be concerned. And then our lab also serves as a great resource for parents in this age group. So we take babies up to 4 months and sometimes up to 6 months, depending on the circumstances. So if you find that you're in this age group and you're concerned, reach out to us because we might be able to enroll you in our study, and then we'll keep an eye on your infant and we can always provide that feedback.
Yeah, that's great. Is there anything else that families can have access to or look at as a free resource?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a ton of resources on the internet per the usual. And it can be hard to tell what parents should really take like strictly like my child should be doing this and what like might not be quite as research supported. So we can link to a few things like below this video. I'll send you some links. One of the main things is the CDC has milestone charts. So if you search CDC milestone infant growth chart or something like that in your Google search bar, it'll bring you to that page and you can get these growth charts for a whole bunch of ages. It's like 2, 4, 6, then it goes to 9 and 12 months, and then even beyond that. So if you have some concerns, check out those milestone markers and see like where your child falls. I believe the CDC also has an app, which is pretty cool, where you can go in and mark like, oh, my child is doing these things, but they're not doing these things, and it'll give you some information. And then we can also put a link to the First Words Project, which is happening. It's a research project at FSU, and they have an online screener that parents from anywhere can fill out. You don't have to live in Florida to do this. And then if there are concerns, they'll reach out to you to kind of help you out, even just virtually.
That's such a good resource.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we will definitely drop those links in the description of this video so that you can have access to those free resources. So this has been some really good information that's been shared today. I think that to wrap everything up, Alexis, could you share an ESDI lab tidbit or maybe 3 things that we would want parents to walk away with and to remember?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I have three things that in your child's first 6 months of life, you should be doing to kind of support the development of social communication skills, like we've talked about today. So the first thing is play and talk to your baby every day. And it's really important when you do this, like get down on the floor and like really get the objects, talk about the objects, things like that. So that's number one. Number two is copying your baby's sounds, just like you and I practice. So you can practice that with your baby or even your partner or anybody else in your house. And finally, expose your child to different toys and situations that capture their attention. One that comes to mind for me is if your child's never seen themselves in a mirror, you can put your child in front of the mirror, see what they do, see what sounds they make at themselves in the mirror, and then copy those sounds. So it can really kind of start a quote unquote conversation between you and your baby in these new situations.
Yeah, that's great. All right. So talking to your baby and playing with your baby every day.
Yep.
Copying their sounds,
Mm-hmm.
and exposing your baby to new and exciting environments that really capture their attention.
That's right.
That's great. All right. Hope you caught that, everybody. So these are great suggestions. Again, thank you, Alexis, for being here today and for talking a little bit more about some of these early developmental milestones. So if you have anything that you would like us to share, or if there's anything specifically that you'd like us to talk about next time, please put some comments below, and we'd love to address the questions and help answer anything else that you might want to know about infant development.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great to be here today. And next week, stay tuned because I think we're going to continue on this social development track, if that sounds good. And I'll cover milestones in the second 6 months of an infant's life. And then maybe if we have time, I'll be able to sneak in some information from our research study on what we see in our babies.
That's great. All right, I hope you caught that. So next week, we're going to touch on the 6 to 12 months of life and give you some information from our research as well. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.